Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. Now, it's Everything is Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Here is your host, James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Bo Snerdley, James Golden here with you. For our podcast today, we want to take a look into some of the matters affecting, this is very serious, by the way, the SAVE Act. You have heard everything in the world about the SAVE Act, how awful it is. Why is the SAVE Act awful? Well, according to liberals, according to the left, the SAVE Act is going to deny black people from voting. Why? Because it's Jim Crow 2. That's what Chuck Schumer says. Never mind the fact that the Democrats are responsible for Jim Crow 1. Woodrow Wilson, in particular, Democrat president, demanded that the federal government get rid of the black people. He was a total racist. Total racist. I could use other words for him, but I won't. Woodrow Wilson, League of Nations, that one. And they still lionize this guy. Nobody's talking about taking down his institutions in Washington, D.C. They still have the Woodrow Wilson Institute or whatever it's called and all that good stuff. This was the guy that brought the KKK movie, the birth of whatever it is, into the White House to screen it. Same guy. That's where Jim Crow 2 officially started, although it was already in effect, to be honest with you, in the Democrat Party South. Democrats, of course, the party of slavery, never forget that. They are the ones who defended slavery. The Democrats were the ones that we were fighting. We, the Union, those people that believed in the American Union, fighting the Civil War against. Their new Confederacy, by the way, is all up on this illegal immigration thing. They haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is who the people are that they use for cheap labor or unpaid labor in the case of the slavery, but now cheap labor. Anyway, I'm veering off point, but it all should make sense anyway. Here we are with now voting becoming a central issue. Democrats are saying, oh, this is terrible. Black people are not going to be able to vote. Why can't black people vote? Well, because black people, you see, those poor people, they don't know how to get identification. They don't know how to get identification. That's a little odd. We're here in the 21st century, and you're telling me black people don't? Well, okay. And they're saying if you're a married woman, you've heard this over and over again, those of you that follow the news, if you're a married woman, you get married, you change your husband's name, you change to your husband's name. That's an old policy. Anyway, you won't be able to vote because you can't figure out how to get the ID too either. It's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. We can't have voter ID. But we have ID for everything else. We have ID. You need to go in the store and buy some booze. Got to show some cigarettes, whatever. Got to go through TSA. You got to show ID. But according to Democrat people, showing ID is just going to be ridiculously difficult. So, one of the things that I really enjoyed was a panel on TV. It was either CNN or Fox. Cut 7, Eric. It was a panel. I believe it was a Fox. And here it is. We had a guy defending the idea. It's too difficult for people, especially those blacks, especially those people, to get ID. And he's just a young-looking, I don't want to, mischaracterize the kid. He's nice. I don't have anything against this kid. When I say pajama boy, I'm just talking about a mindset that we came to talk about in political terms. I don't know who this kid is. Nice kid, probably a decent kid, every aspect. But he's concerned about his fellow citizens, especially the poor, dumb black ones who can't figure out how to vote. And he wants to make sure that the poor, dumb black voters can vote. So they shouldn't be required to have ID. And cut 7, and here he is. The only issue was there are some black people on the panel too. So let's listen and watch this together.
We all agree on that point. I just think that the reality is that an act like the SAVE Act is very likely more aimed at voter suppression and at keeping key demographics that the Republican Party does not want voting to not show out and vote. I think very often minority demographics.
That's not true.
No.
So this is the thing where
That's
the
not
suggestion
true.
is it's going to keep the black vote down. I've got two black panelists here. Ajwa?
That's not true.
Do you have ID and proof of citizenship?
Yeah, and if I need a copy of my birth certificate, it's just a matter of going online or going up to the department and asking for it and showing my information to get it. I mean, to say that it would negatively affect a minority group because they're somehow not educated enough to get these documents is completely outrageous.
Annie?
In my opinion, this should not be a controversial issue.
Yeah, the look on his face when all of a sudden he's calling out what we have all, this view of liberals that black people are stupid. Black people particularly are stupid and dumb. They can't be expected to have an ID. They can't be expected to live in America like other people live. In fact, it's just odd. It's just odd that you can actually have, if you think about this in its totality, you have people that come to this country illegally. The Democrat Party makes sure that they can walk into a motor vehicle in certain states, a motor vehicle office, and walk out illegal people, illegal aliens, and they can walk out with an identification. That said, here's a driver's license. Sure, I'm in your country illegally, but I was able to go to the Department of Motor Vehicles, stand in that line, take the test, even in my own language, walk out with an ID. The Democrats that enable us are the same people who tell you black Americans whose ancestors have been here, in some cases, for over 400 years. The ones that still live here are too stupid and dumb to get an identification card of some type from their government. So generation after generation after generation of black people, including the ones that fought in America's war, including ancestors, go back to the Revolutionary War, go back to all of the skirmishes that took place, then the Civil War, go back to some of the other big skirmishes, Spanish-American War, go back, World War I, go back, World War II, go back, the Korean War, like my dad for World War II and Korean War, go back, the Vietnam conflict, go back, Gulf War I, Gulf War II. These same people generationally who have been part of the American experience from the beginning of the American experience, even before it was America. But these same people, these the ancestors of these people who took place in every single American experience that there is, their ancestors are too stupid and too dumb to learn how to get an ID card from their local governments. That is what Democrats are telling you. It is insulting. It is offensive. It is ridiculous that we're still arguing about this. And why are these Democrats arguing about this? Because they want to preserve the notion that you should not have an ID, that you should not be required to show an ID. That also we should be able to just keep doing it by mail for weeks on end at a time. No more election day. It's election week, election month. And why do they insist on this? Well, let's turn to cut 6, shall we? The voting, as they call it, ballot harvesting. We're harvesting votes. This was another idea put forward by Democrats that is threatened by the SAVE Act. Let's find out from this report from Folkestone how that ballot harvesting worked out in this location.
First tonight, voter fraud allegations rocking a small town in South Alabama. 3 people arrested accused of filling out bogus absentee ballots.
That's a story we broke on all of our digital platforms this afternoon. Our Natalie Williamson has your late reporting from Frisco City in Monroe County.
Natalie, the accusations are related to last year's municipal election there.
That's right, Lenise and Cameron. The 3 women were arrested today for voter fraud in connection to the Frisco City municipal election last August. This big development follows a lawsuit that was filed, which also alleges wrongdoing in the August election. Tonight, election cheating allegations in small town Alabama. 3 women accused of rigging a bunch of absentee ballots. Court documents filed today in Monroe County reveal a grand jury indicted 67-year-old Sharon Denson, 46-year-old Samantha Kiles, and 59-year-old Sarah Bennett for illegally filling out and submitting ballots during the Frisco City municipal election in August of 2025. Those same records show Denson changed 7 people's ballots. Kiles altered 4 people's ballots, and Bennett changed 9 people's ballots. The criminal charges follow a civil lawsuit that was filed last September by former Frisco City Mayor Alan Lang, who lost the August election. In it, Lang is challenging the vote count, saying 131 illegal absentee ballots were counted, which changed the results. According to the lawsuit, 85 people falsely claimed they would work a 10-hour shift on Election Day to justify voting absentee. 33 people claimed they were physically disabled and couldn't vote in person, and at least 13 people who didn't live in the town voted. The Alabama AG's office says the 3 suspects arrested today are facing a total of 17 counts of ballot harvesting and 20 counts of unlawful use of an absentee ballot. This case is being prosecuted by the Special Prosecution Division for the State Attorney General. In Frisco City, Natalie Williamson, Fox 10.
Now, be honest. How many of you, be honest, don't cheat. Not that you would, unless you're a Democrat. Be honest. How many of you ever heard of Frisco, Alabama? If I asked you, let's go Ebonic. If I asked you right now to go to a map and put your finger where you think Frisco, Alabama is, how many of you would get it right? Never heard of Frisco, Alabama, most people, unless you live in Frisco or the surrounding environs. 131 alleged in this little town, and it did have impact on the election. If this little tiny town there that you never heard of, Frisco, Alabama, down there in deep dark South, that's right, down there in America's Southland. If y'all never heard of Frisco, Alabama, and you got all this cheating going around there, down there in Frisco, Alabama, what you suppose could be happening where ballot harvesting is in areas where millions of people live that you have heard of? If these 3 women folk can go in and start changing ballots, they just collect and harvest the ballots and then start making little changes in the ballots. Well, she said she was voting for this one, but we'd rather she vote for that one. If this can happen with ballot harvesting in little old Frisco, Alabama, what makes you think that ballots in bigger locales are safe? This whole thing is a scam. Even Jimmy Carter from Georgia back in the day warned people, y'all start messing with this mail-in ballot stuff, you start all this, it's ripe for fraud. But yet Democrats keep telling you there's no fraud, Fraud doesn't exist. Ain't no fraud out there, boy. Everything good, boy. Ain't no fraud. There's fraud. Down there in Frisco, Alabama, there's fraud, and it was affecting the election outcome in the municipal election. What do you think is happening with your elections, ladies and gentlemen? Ripe for fraud. This is why they don't want the SAVE Act. Come on, folks. This one's really, all right, we've done that. We got some other things to discuss here. We're going to move out of Frisco, Alabama, and move up to the big city, the biggest of the big cities. outside of L.A., which is just in shambles, New York City still remained the big city up there, up north, in the big blue north. Let's check in with CNN's Harry Enton, who, by the way, I have a lot of respect for this guy as a pollster. He calls it like he sees it, regardless whether the CNN crowd likes the polls or doesn't, whether the Republicans like the poll or don't. He's one of the straight shooters. My all-time favorite pollster, by the way, happens to be the TIPP polls, but we'll get into that on another episode. But Harry Enton from CNN, just excellent poster. Let's check in with him and talking about New York Socialist Mayor Mamdani. Here he is.
Yeah, okay. You know, President Trump is not the only one who gets the vapors when it comes to Zohran Mamdani. I mean, my goodness gracious, he likes popular politicians. Here's a popular politician for you. Take a look here. Mamdani's net favorable rating in New York City in September of 2025, plus 14 points. December of 2025, plus 38. Now, look at this, plus 48 points, a more popular mayor to start off than either of his two Democratic predecessors, either Eric Adams or Bill de Blasio, the most popular Democrat in New York City in a generation. And President Trump, who likes to get on board with popular politicians, is getting on board right now with this guy.
Getting on board with this guy. Okay, so what about statewide? Yeah. What are we seeing statewide?
Okay, so you know what? A lot of Republicans are like, oh, we're going to run statewide in New York and run against Zohran Mamdani. There's a slight problem with that, and that is Zohran Mamdani isn't just popular in New York City. He's actually the most popular Democrat statewide. Take a look at this. Net favorable of New York Democrats statewide. Look at this. Zohran Mamdani with a positive net favorable rating of plus 16 points. More popular than Kristen Gillibrand at plus 12. More popular than Kathy Hochul at plus 9. More popular than Chuck Schumer at minus 7. The bottom line is this. Zohran Mamdani is the most popular Democrat in the state of New York. Right now, Republicans are not going to be able to run against him in the midterms because the bottom line is this. He's popular not just in his home city, but he's popular in New York State as well.
Okay, but what about the popularity with the president? What is it that President Trump seems to like about him?
Yeah, okay. So I think what he likes about him is the fact that he is very much the type of politician who is able to attract the media attention in the same way while sticking with what he believes is right? You know, Donald Trump has always been this type of politician who goes out there, says a whole heck of a lot of things, but then is still able to maintain his base. And Zohran Mamdani is the type of guy who's been able to bring in President Trump, but also has basically been sticking to his campaign platform. I mean, take a look at this. Chance Mamdani freezes the rent, the thing he had run on. Look at this. According to the prediction markets, the Kalshi prediction market this year, there's still an 81% chance that Zohran Mamdani actually freezes the rent. So he is maintaining his popularity citywide. You see him right here. It's been going up like a rocket. He is maintaining, in fact, being the most popular Democrat in the state of New York right here, plus 16 points. And he is doing so while also at this point looking like he is going to actually keep that big campaign promise of freezing the rent. At this point, as I said, President Trump isn't the only one who has the vapors, because the bottom line is this. A lot of New Yorkers have the vapors about Zohran Mamdani as well, as he is sticking to his quite progressive platform.
Harry Enton, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just remember something, folks. Just remember this one thing, please. Remember this, so we do listen to this beautiful thing. Mamdani, he's just the best. He's the best to ever live. He's the best. Nobody in popular is like Zohran. So everybody loves Zohran. Everybody loves Raymond, but really, everybody really loves Zohran. Remember this one thing. You've heard this since you were a kid. You've heard this since the time that you began traversing all that there is to know about human life. What goes up must inevitably come down. Let's check in with this later. After all these taxes that he wants to put on people, including a 10% property tax, go in. Let's check in later when all the free stuff turns out to be not so free after all. Let's check in later. This is just the beginning, folks. What goes up must come down.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially
health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Speaking of down, let's turn our attention to some people that are a bit down on their luck. Democrats in Congress, werewolves. The Democrats in Congress have decided that they wanted to shut down FEMA. They wanted to shut down DHS. They're pissed off. They want to take ICE out. They want to decapitate ICE. They hate ICE. They hate law enforcement, especially when it comes to immigration matters. So they're not paying your TSA agents. They're not paying people that work for FEMA. They're not paying members of the United States Coast Guard. They are so angry. And I just wanted to let you hear the other side of, you don't hear these sob stories. Usually when if Republicans had a shutdown, the mainstream media is all over with sob stories, with the real life stories. I'm not saying sob stories dismissively, the real life stories of people that are affected by the government shutdowns. We have a TSA agent who is discussing what life has been like for him these weeks since Democrats have shut down partially the government. It is not getting a lot of attention. But here is this TSA agent.
Working without pay. And now some are looking for a second job or another way to put food on the table.
We're ready for this to be over. And
Transportation Security Officer Robert Castaneda spoke to me before starting his shift at Sky Harbor. The partial government shutdown is impacting the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees the TSA. And while members of Congress argue about a deal, officers like Castaneda aren't getting paid for the hours they've worked since the shutdown began 12 days ago.
There are many families that rely on their paycheck. Many of our officers work paycheck to paycheck.
Castaneda and the other officers are labeled essential, so they're required to report to work. But this comes on the heels of the historic government shutdown that lasted over 40 days last fall. Castaneda says people need to know that money didn't come right away.
It took 2 pay periods to get caught up. And then there were still many officers nationwide who did not receive all of their back pay up until January.
Castaneda says he's beginning to look elsewhere, potentially leaving a job he truly loves.
I myself have been on an interview with the city of Phoenix recently, just as a backup plan.
The current shutdown is the result over a fight over ICE, not the TSA. But both agencies are under the DHS umbrella. Senator Ruben Gallegos spoke before the shutdown about how he was refusing to fund DHS following the shooting deaths of U.S. citizens in Minnesota by ICE agents. Right now, Democrats are pushing for more oversight and accountability with the agency before they approve funding.
It was, at the end of the day, a murder that was caused by unnecessary escalation of force.
I think many of us do want accountability for all the departments within DHS, but most of those departments are still getting paid, and those of us that are not are the ones suffering and being, used as pawns in this particular endeavor.
Right.
So in order for the Senate to pass this budget, they need 60 yes votes, which means that both Democrats and Republicans will need to work together in order to get that passed. Now live at Sky Harbor, I'm Steven Sarabia with Arizona's Family.
Yeah, and it seems like they're at an impasse over this in Congress, Steven. So the next paycheck that the TSA staff get, will that have any money in it, or will it be like a goose egg?
So I'm being told that the paycheck this week will have some days where they get paid basically the stretch of days right leading up to the shutdown, but they're not going to get paid for the days after the shutdown. So they'll have some money in this week's paycheck, but there is a big worry that if this goes on even longer, that the next paycheck.
It's gone on. They don't have any money. They're out of money. Democrats still there. And let me just address this one thing. I'm so tired of hearing this. Murdered by the TSA. I don't know what happened in the case of Alex Preddy. I don't know. On my radio programs, I've raised the topic. This is something that needs to be investigated fully. I don't understand all the details of that. But one thing's for sure about this Renee Goodwin. She was trying to drive into an ICE officer and she got killed. It's tragic. It's horrible. If she wasn't trying to interfere with an ICE agent, the woman would be alive. They also ordered her out the car. She didn't listen. She instead drove toward them. She deaded. I'm not making fun of her. I think it's tragic. I think it's terrible. But I put myself in any situation. I put, growing up, if an officer of the law told us get out of the vehicle, we wouldn't try to drive the vehicle to him unless we expected something bad to happen. And something bad happened. Why are we continuing to make martyrs of people that willingly disobey the law, willingly stop and try to interfere with the law, and then they suffer a horrible consequence? They shouldn't be interfering with the law. This is just 101. It happens every day. By the way, all these Democrats that shut down the government because of this, have any of these Democrats ever shut down the government over the tens of thousands of Americans who have died at the hands of illegal immigrants that we're trying to get a handle on with law enforcement? Have they shut down the government over the rampant criminality in many of these own neighborhoods? I used to look at the Chicago everywhere. I haven't done it in a while. The weekend totals of the Chicago murder rate. It was astounding. Mostly black kids, but they don't care about that. Every weekend, you go to these things. Have they ever shut down the government over that? But they'll shut down the government because this woman, 2 people in Minnesota, tried to interfere with ICE agents and enforcement of law and came to a very tragic and sad ending. And they'll shut down your government over that and deny government workers like these TSA people their paychecks. But they don't give a damn about what happens in American neighborhoods all around this country. It's just pathetic. These people, Trump said it at the State of the Union. These people are crazy. I want to leave you today, ladies and gentlemen, going overseas. We haven't talked about the Wawa. And here's the reason we're not going to talk about the Wawa on the podcast, because by the time the podcast comes out, right now, the Wawa changing information is happening all the time. So we'll figure out how to talk about the Wawa in future episodes with Iran. But one thing became clear. Some of our allies haven't been playing nice, and some of them are going back in shape. There's a big, big, big political battle happening in the UK over their uncooperation with the United States of America. Also, Spain backtracked. UK is backtracked somewhat. But Alexandria Phillips, I discovered with her commentary, and I just wanted to share it with you, her commentary over her unhappiness. Now, she was a member of the European Parliament back in the Brexit days. She was a exit. She was one of the Brexit politicians back then, and she's still going strong. She has, the name of her show is That Alex Woman, and here's a clip from it that I heartily enjoyed, and I hope you do too.
It horrifies me to read that. And Jack is right. Our amazing armed forces deserve all the credibility. They deserve good resources. They deserve to have our full support. They deserve to be protected, for crying out loud. We were exposed out there. We knew that there was going to be war in that region, and we have left them undefended. And now France and Greece are having to run to our rescue. Do you know what? I've got a message, not just for this Prime Minister, but all of you, for the past 20 years, you have been self-indulgent, you have been naive, your policy principles have had totally the wrong priorities. It's been about keeping your seats, gaining your seats, pandering to communities who will never vote for you, who do not have our interests at heart. You didn't stop those pro-Palestine marches. You didn't prescribe the Muslim Brotherhood. You didn't prescribe the IRGC. You were weak in support of Israel. You have sabotaged our self-sufficiency when it comes to energy production, concreting those oil wells, banning exploratory drilling in the North Sea. What on earth do you think you're doing? You're domestic terrorists. You're sabotaging this nation. You're compromising food security by attacking the farmers. Well, guess what? When international maritime shipping routes close down, food can no longer reach our island. Everything that this government and, quite frankly, previous governments have been doing for far too long now has been pathetic. It's been weak-willed. It has had its eye off the ball. It has been narcissistic. It's been about looking good in public, and at the same time, you have put Britain in a desperately precarious situation. You've flooded this land with foreign enemies. You have not secured our borders because of a pandering to out-of-date, not fit-for-purpose international law and treaties that belong in the dustbin of history, that defend our enemies and straitjacket our ability to defend ourselves. You have bowed down at the altar to every single dangerous, perilous, pathetic and weak woke ideology out there, filling up your shopping cart, showering yourself in faux moral glory. Well, look at where we are now. We're not able to defend our RAF base. We are completely out of the picture, not trusted by our allies. In fact, they're having to rush to our defence. We got the highest energy prices in the world, and guess what? With the cost of gas going up 90%, we're going to be hit hard. Qatar, the one person who was supplying us with liquefied natural gas, well, they're not going to be able to anymore. And are we self-sufficient? Are we resilient? No, because everyone who's been in power just thinks war is a distant thing that won't happen to them. What is more important is rainbow lanyards and pronouns. You're pathetic. Look what you've done to this country, the lot of you, for crying out loud. Right, got that off my chest, didn't I?
I certainly did. Guess what? You're pathetic. The lot of you. You're all just a bunch of pathetic bending your knees for what? I love this woman. She is just, I mean, wow. Now, I say that from a position of politics, of course. Can you imagine being this woman's husband and getting on her bad side? Ooh, no. My friends, our brief time together has come to an end. James Golden, Boast Early, inviting you back for our very next episode. Always a pleasure. I'm so glad I was able to get some of this off my chest.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.